Everybody agrees that whatever the solutions are to the big problems, they include education, sometimes can be just education, and can never be without some element of education.
Every education system in the world is being reformed at the moment, and it's not enough. Reform is no use anymore, because that's simply improving a broken model. What we need, and the word's been used many times during the course of the past few days, is not evolution, but a revolution in education. This has to be transformed into something else. And the reason so many people are opting out of education is because it doesn't feed their spirit. It doesn't feed their energy or their passion. So I think we have to change metaphors. We have to go from what is essentially an industrial model of education, a manufacturing model, which is based on linearity and conformity and batching people. We have to move to a model that is based more on principles of agriculture. We have to recognize that human flourishing is not a mechanical process, it's an organic process. And you cannot predict the outcome of human development. All you can do is, like a farmer, is create the conditions under which they will begin to flourish. So when we look at
those, I want to admit that I am an optimist. Any tough problem, I think it can be solved.
I mentioned this in the very beginning. State of mind. What you believe is possible is so critical. If you think something is impossible, then you're right. It is for you. As soon as you say, I can't do something, then you can't. And so believing, truly believing in your heart that you can do it is the first and most important thing that you have to do, no matter what it is.
See, what we're finding is not necessarily the reality that shapes us, but the lens through which your brain views the world that shapes your reality. And if we can change the lens, not only can we change your happiness, we can change every single educational and business outcome at the same time. We need to reverse the formula for happiness and success. In the past 3 years, I've traveled to 45 different countries, working with schools and companies in the midst of an economic downturn. And what I found is that most companies and schools follow a formula for success, which is this: if I work harder, I'll be more successful. And if I'm more successful, then I'll be happier. That undergirds most of our parenting styles, our managing styles, the way that we motivate our behavior, and the problem is it's scientifically broken and backwards for two reasons. First, every time your brain has a success, you just change the goalpost of what success looked like. You got good grades, now you have to get better grades. You got into a good school, now you have to get a better school. You got a good job, now you have to get a better job. You hit your sales target, we're going to change your sales target. And if happiness is on the opposite side of success, your brain never gets there. What we've done is we've pushed happiness over the cognitive horizon as a society. And that's because we think we have to be successful, then we'll be happier. But the real problem is our brains work in the opposite order. If you can raise somebody's level of positivity in the present, then their brain experiences what we now call a happiness advantage, which is your brain at positive performs significantly better than it does at negative, neutral, or stressed. Your intelligence rises, your creativity rises, your energy levels rise. In fact, what we found...
Not only that, if it's taught properly, it can be a lot of fun. I mean, probability and statistics, it's the mathematics of games and gambling. It's analyzing trends, it's predicting the future.
It is this breathtaking image of success, of course, that motivates us and motivates kids to follow and understand rocket science, to understand the importance of physics and math, and in many ways to sort of have that awe and exploration of the frontiers of the unknown.
Is passion. Freeman Thomas says, I'm driven by my passion. Testers do it for love, they don't do it for money. Carol Coletta says, I would pay someone to do what I do. And the interesting thing is, if you do it for love, the money comes anyway.
I'm Jane McGonigal. I'm a game designer. I've been making games online now for 10 years, and my goal for the next decade is to try to make it as easy to save the world in real life as it is to save the world in online games. This is a gamer who's on the verge of something called an epic win. Now, Oh, you've heard of that. Okay, good. So we have some gamers among us. So an epic win is an outcome that is so extraordinarily positive, you had no idea it was even possible until you achieved it. It was almost beyond the threshold of imagination. And when you get there, you are shocked to discover what you're truly capable of. That's an epic win. This is a gamer on the verge of an epic win. And this is the face that we need to see on millions of problem solvers all over the world as we try to tackle the obstacles of the next century. The face of someone who, against all odds, is on the verge of an epic win. We feel that we are not as good in reality as we are in games. And I don't mean just good as in successful, although that's part of it. We do achieve more in game worlds. But I also mean good as in motivated to do something that matters, inspired to collaborate and to cooperate. And when we're in game worlds, I believe that many of us become the best version of ourselves, the most likely to help at a moment's notice, the most likely to stick with a problem as long as it takes, to get up after failure and try again. And in real life, when we face failure, when we confront obstacles, we often don't feel that way. We feel overcome, we feel overwhelmed, we feel anxious, maybe depressed, frustrated, or cynical. We never have those feelings when we're playing games. They just don't exist in games. So that's what I wanted to study when I was a graduate student. What about games makes it impossible to feel that we can't achieve everything? How can we take those feelings from games and apply them to real-world work? So finally, the last game, we're launching it March 3rd. This is a game done with the World Bank Institute. If you complete the game, you will be certified by the World Bank Institute as a social innovator, class of 2010. Working with universities all over sub-Saharan Africa, and we are inviting them to learn social innovation skills. We've got a graphic novel, we've got leveling up in skills like local insight, knowledge networking, sustainability, vision, and resourcefulness. I would like to invite all of you to please share this game with young people anywhere in the world, particularly in developing areas, who might benefit from coming together to try to start to imagine their own social enterprises to save the world. Well, I hope that you will agree with me that gamers are a human resource that we can use to do real-world work, that games are a powerful platform for change. We have all these amazing superpowers, blissful productivity, the ability to weave a tight social fabric, this feeling of urgent optimism and the desire for epic meaning. I really hope that we can come together to play games that matter, to survive on this planet for another century. And that's my hope, that you will join me in making and playing games like this. When I look forward to the next decade, I know two things for sure: that we can make any future we can imagine, and we can play any games we want. So I say, let the world-changing games begin.
What must we do differently as parents, as teachers, as mentors, and employers? What are the environments, the cultures that produce innovation in the school and in the workplace? Number one, the culture of learning in innovators' classrooms is all about teamwork and collaboration, just as it is in the corporate world. Whereas in conventional classes, we celebrate and reward only individual achievement. Number two, the culture of learning to become a collaborator is all about problem-based learning, which you guys know a lot about, and studying problems interdisciplinarily. Whereas more and more in the conventional classrooms, we reward subject content expertise.
Yeah, sure.
Number three, the culture of learning to become an innovator is all about taking risks and learning from mistakes and iterating. Whereas the culture of schooling is risk-averse and penalizes failure. Number four, the culture of learning in innovators' classrooms is all about creating, not merely consuming. Whereas, as we know, that too often in most classrooms, it's all about consuming and regurgitating information. Finally, and most importantly, Anthony, what I discovered is that these young innovators were highly intrinsically motivated versus the extrinsic kind of carrots and sticks we see going on in most classrooms. And then when I looked carefully at what their parents and teachers did to reinforce the intrinsic motivation we're all born with, I discovered a pattern of encouraging play, passion, and purpose. Both parents and teachers, the best teachers, did both. The world simply no longer cares how much you know. The world cares about what you can do with what you know, and that's a completely different and brand new education problem. Then it becomes a matter of skill and will. Expertise is a ticket to play, but it doesn't mean you become a value-added player. And unless and until we start assessing the skills that matter most, we won't be encouraging teachers to do what's best for kids. So Accountability 2.0 has several I think, important elements. There are dramatically better tests out there, like the College and Work Readiness Assessment, the Collegiate Learning Assessment, which I and others have written about and which can easily be found, and which the best schools and districts I know are actually using right now today as value-added assessments.
Underlying it was that some very simple ideas that large numbers of teenagers learn best by doing things, they learn best in teams, and they learn best by doing things for real. All the opposite of what mainstream schooling actually does.
Trying to enable anyone in the world, I mean anyone in the world, to be their own educational DJ, creating educational materials, sharing them with the world, constantly innovating on them.
Economics taught in most of the elite universities are practically useless in my context. My country is dominated by drug economy and a mafia. Textbook economics does not work in my context.
Push. David Gallo says push yourself. Physically, mentally, you've got to push, push, push. You got to push through shyness and self-doubt. Goldie Hawn says, I always had self-doubts. I wasn't good enough, I wasn't smart enough, I didn't think I'd make it. Now, it's not always easy to push yourself, and that's why they invented mothers.
What we do know is, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. If you're not prepared to be wrong. And by the time they get to be adults, most kids have lost that capacity. They have become frightened of being wrong. And we run our companies this, by the way. We stigmatize mistakes. And we're now running national education systems where mistakes are the worst thing you can make. And the result is that we are educating people out of their creative capacities. Picasso once said this. He said that all children are born artists. The problem is to remain an artist as we grow up. I believe this passionately, that we don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it. Or rather, we get educated out of it.
What makes something wrong? How do we know that it's wrong? Maybe you and I disagree. Maybe one of us is wrong about the wrong. Maybe it's you, maybe it's me. But we're not here to trade opinions. Everyone's got an opinion. We are here for knowledge.
Since we took to the sky, we have wanted to fly faster and farther. And to do so, we've had to believe in impossible things, and we've had to refuse to fear failure.
I think we should be raising kids to be entrepreneurs instead of lawyers. And unfortunately, the school system is grooming this world to say, hey, let's be a lawyer or let's be a doctor. And we're missing that opportunity because no one ever says, hey, be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are people, because we have a lot of them in this room, who have these ideas and these passions or see these needs in the world, and we decide to stand up and do it. And we put everything on the line to make that stuff happen. And we have the ability to get those groups of people around us and want to kind of build that dream with us. And I think if we could get kids to embrace the idea at a young age of being entrepreneurial, we could change everything in the world that is a problem today.
This is me at CERN in Geneva, Switzerland, which is the preeminent particle physics laboratory in the world. And this is me with President Obama, showing him my Homeland Security research. So in about 7 years of doing nuclear research, I started out with a dream to make a star in a jar, a star in my garage, and I end up meeting the president and developing things that I think can change the world, and I think other kids can too. So thank you very much.
Riding on Moore's law are a set of extraordinarily powerful technologies available to all of us. Cloud computing, what my friends at Autodesk call infinite computing, sensors and networks, robotics, 3D printing, which is the ability to democratize and distribute personalized production around the planet, synthetic biology, fuels, vaccines, and foods, digital medicine, nanomaterials, and AI.
I'm a learner. I'm a learner before I'm anything else. And it is my aim to create environments for students in which the hierarchy between teacher and student is flattened in a way that everybody who comes into our learning environment gets elevated to the status of learner.
Conventional wisdom says hire battery experts, seasoned professionals who can draw upon their vast experience and knowledge to develop liquid metal battery I hired students and postdocs and mentored them. In a battery, I strive to maximize electrical potential. When mentoring, I strive to maximize human potential. So you see, the liquid metal battery story is more than an account of inventing technology. It's a blueprint for inventing inventors. Full spectrum.
Now, I had an amazing experience. I was 45 years old. I'd been conducting for 20 years, and I suddenly had a realization. The conductor of an orchestra doesn't make a sound. My picture appears on the front of the CD. But the conductor doesn't make a sound. He depends for his power on his ability to make other people powerful. And that changed everything for me. It was totally life-changing. People in my orchestra came up to me and said, "Ben, what happened?" That's what happened. I realized my job was to awaken possibility in other people.
And we have 3 billion new minds coming online to work with us, to solve the grand challenges, to do that which we must do. We are living into an extraordinary decades ahead. We truly are living in an extraordinary time, and many people forget this.
We can do this.